Hello, and welcome to the 17th episode of the 10th Divine Podcast. This is a show about Elder Scrolls Online, and I'm your host, Shanty, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Raven. How are you doing this week?
Still live in Walthamstow. Yeah. It's something just, sorry, I started giggling as you were saying that, because I was like, oh, we're going to have this discussion again. Yeah, so the Tuesday before Christmas, I drove I drove round the M25, which is the big orbital motorway that goes outside London, because I live at one corner of it, and my uncle, who's gifting me the deposit for the flat, lives in the other corner, and my solicitor lives like somewhere like at the top in the middle somewhere. And I literally, I drove to my uncle's because there's no post at the moment, like our post services are on strike. So I had to go and get my uncle to sign some forms and get some stuff witnesses to literally, I drove to his house. We then drove to his workplace. We had his boss witness us, sign a thing. He'd had to go to his solicitors in the morning to get them to witness a particular thing. And as I got in the car to come back towards my solicitors, my solicitor discovered a show-stopping problem. And actually, the mortgage that I had won't buy that flat. So that was an exciting thing. So I thought I was moving on the Thursday. This is the Tuesday. I thought I was moving on the Thursday. And then it was like, nope. So I've had to get a new mortgage, which has been very exciting. And I have a new mortgage offer now, which is very exciting. And then, we wait to see whether in the next week or so, maybe I'll be able to buy this stupid fucking flat. Do I even want it now? I don't even know what's going on. So yeah, here we go. It's the same old, same old. This is everything that we've been saying for the last 6 months. Still trying to buy a flat, still failing to do so. But I have 3 weeks off for Christmas. So that's nice.
So there's some positives there. The idea was to have this first live streamed one after you had moved.
My nice new flat. No.
Unfortunately, life did not cooperate.
Life is not cooperating at all. No. So yeah, I think we are most of the way there with the rest of the information now, which is good. So it's likely that as long as nothing else completely show-stopping happens, that's a big if, then maybe in a couple of weeks we'll get closed in a couple of weeks.
I'll keep crossing my fingers and everything else for you.
Yeah, you're all gonna get cramp. I think it's been months and months, and everyone's like, "Oh God, I'm gonna cross everything for you." Like, don't, because you'll be stuck in that position forever. That'll definitely be a thing. How are you doing? How was your festive season? Oh, and Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
Yes, Happy New Year. So the festive season was nice. I got books on language learning for Tagalog, Spanish, and ASL. So been working on those. Spent time with the in-laws. Always good to see them. New Year's was nice and quiet, except for the 20 minutes where it sounded like an absolute war zone outside of my house. And I've actually been in one, so I would know.
Yeah.
So so that's been good. Work was surprisingly slow this week. The mail volume was just unrealistically light. I don't know what's going to happen with coming into the next week. We're going to be hammered
on Monday. Yeah.
No, that's been the past 2 Tuesdays because we've had all the mail that would typically show up on Sunday and Monday delivered on Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
So that's been I think we had almost 500 trays delivered this past Tuesday, but even that is still a bit low for the total for the 3 days. So we'll just get through it the way we always do. And we are, as always, not on our own, and we're very excited for today's guest, Lotus of Dominion, or wait, I guess it's back to Lotus of Doom now.
Yes, I'm free of that curse. So it might have been a good reason that I was cursed, but nonetheless, it is now behind me. My happy new year was not needing to be on the wrong alliance anymore, or also look like a giant traffic cone when I was playing video games because of the outfits everybody so gracefully, you included, decided to design me into to
Hey,
end the year.
my donation got erased within like half an hour.
That's yeah, I couldn't keep up with the amount of horrible, horrible things people did to my character. So
And honestly, if there had been more already changed from the glass by the time I had donated, I'd have moved it back to the glass personally. just for Arc.
yeah, just that's the spit. Yeah, Arc's been getting off easy this last little bit. I don't care for that. Usually we dunk more on Arc. Recently, I've been the target.
Well,
Less
I mean,
fun.
Arc has been playing as much. I guess that's how you do it.
That's damn. That's actually a clever strategy. Shit.
So Lotus is back to join us for our first deeper dive discussion, which will be starting progression. But first, what have you been up to in game recently, Raven?
I mean, not much, to be honest. Partly because Dragonflight has launched for World of Warcraft, and I run a bunch of progression teams in World of Warcraft, so I had to fulfill my raid leading end of the bargain and actually be prepared to raid in World of Warcraft, which I just about managed, which was good. But it means it's been eating into my other video gaming time, and I haven't moved. And this ongoing extreme amount of stress trying to get to this close on this flat means I can't settle to video games at the moment. Like I log in and I'm like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do. Oh, I don't really want to do. I don't know what to do. And I sort of sit there for a bit, and I'm like, you sort of flick through your quest log, and you sit and look at your maps. It doesn't matter what game I'm in, and I'm like, I can't make a decision. I'm going to go and watch TV. So, so I have been catching up with The Sandman, which I'd missed, which I was saving. When it first came out, I was like, I will watch The Sandman when I move. And that was now quite a long time ago because it came out in the summer. So I've been catching up on The Sandman, which is brilliant, but I haven't done a lot of ESO. I've been ticking my writs over. But not really doing anything more than that at the moment. But I am hoping to get back into it. I've got over my initial gearing hump in WoW, which is obviously the problem. Like I have to be ready to Mythic Plus. I was ready to Mythic Plus. The Mythic Plus team is underway. We've even killed a boss on normal, so in raid progression. So that's all ticking over now, which means I can go back to playing other video games and things. Although I do have to go back to work on Monday, which is a bit depressing. 3 weeks off work has been quite nice. Now I have to go back. They won't pay me any money unless I go back.
Very inconsiderate of them.
Very.
I was just about to say that's very rude of them.
Very rude. Yeah. To expect me to actually go to work, which, frankly, it's just terrible. So a bit on the low side in terms of actual ESO content at the moment, but hoping to pick it up again soon. I've been talking to some of the other people that we quite often take to dungeons and things, and trying to see where other people are at and whether they want to kind of drop back into it. Now that we've got over the initial woohoo, but it seems like people are having quite a lot of fun on their dragon riding. It's difficult to pull people away from that dragon riding thing.
It is very zoomy and very fun.
It's especially entertaining if you hit a tree at speed.
Oh yeah, especially once you've hit like the max speed and you hit a branch and just complete stop.
Yeah. And when you're halfway through the race, or you try to avoid something in a race and then you go way off course, and the like little arrow thing is like the sat nav in your car that's like, mate, just turn the fuck around. You're in the wrong fucking place. Like, what are you doing? Stop it. And the dragon's getting upset, and then you run out of oomph, and it's just like, I'm just going to land here and wait for somebody to teleport me back to the beginning because I just fucked completely. That was a bad idea. But no, I'm hoping to get a bit more back into it, but a bit of a light month or so for me. How about yourself?
Outside of research and writs, I've also been kind of light on ESO the past month. I had a couple friends gift me Dragonflight, which I wasn't anticipating buying until, say, February or March. And like I said, that dragon riding is very fun and very zoomy, and it's It's eaten up a bit more of my time than I initially anticipated. So I guess let's hope our guest here today has been playing
Legend.
some
How
ESO.
has she been playing some ESO?
Oh wait, no, we're supposed to play it. No, I actually have. I have. I've still been playing some ESO. I've been playing some of the older Elder Scrolls games recently. I've had time to play the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, which is from
Right,
'96. Yeah, it's it. Man, that game was some of the older classic Elder Scrolls games. It's neat to see what they added to the series, but they have a lot of problems. There's like, I would say they have like a really good bones to add to the series, and you can see how Daggerfall is just straight up way the fuck ahead of its time. Like that game was
outside
so
of maybe the
ahead of
map
its time.
system.
Well, the map system does make me want to gouge out my eyes. It's pretty much unreadable with the 3D mapping, and it's just that the design of the dungeons is procedurally generated, and the map is 3D, which it kind of sort of needs to be. So it's like these tunnels, and they fill in the map and like kind of get rid of the fog as you discover them. But the procedural generation is just these corridors looping on top of each other. So it's just this pyramid of spirals. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, I can't see what's happening. So navigation is rough. And I appreciate modern day design for that.
When you opened that up on your Extra Life stream, I got a headache trying to figure it out.
Several people have been like, watching me try to navigate the map actually sort of gives some people motion sickness just because I'm trying to like loop through corridors. And they're like, this is nauseating. I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know where I'm going though. But yeah, I've been playing some ESO. I finished up the Fire Song expansion, so I got the year conclusion. And ironically, once we get to the discussion topic, I've been working with progression stuff, getting set back up because I've been on a very long progression hiatus from doing anything challenging in ESO, just because I have not liked all the combat overhauls that just never stop, so I can never figure out where to pick up when I'm trying to progress something. And again, there were there were quite a few very detrimental combat bugs that it wasn't that you couldn't do anything with the problems, but I simply didn't want to add that level of annoyance to me doing something that's already challenging. Why would I want an RNG element of, hey, is your block working? I don't know. You'll have to find out. Like that was not something that was enticing to me. So I just wasn't really doing anything with that. And then the only other thing that I've actually played, because I don't play a lot of different games necessarily, but relates to you guys, what with your World of Warcraft thing, just from the same parent company. I was on a hiatus from playing anything from Blizzard for reasons I'm sure you're aware of.
Yes, indeed.
Yep, we are very aware. I mean, that's a little bit of what led to us coming together as a podcast in the first place.
And I really just personally wasn't comfortable supporting all of that stuff until at least I don't expect companies to change overnight. They're giant mega corporations of thousands of people. I get it. But if you're not going to try and you're just going to be awful, then I'm like checked out of the equation. Yeah. And I have the pleasure of knowing just a couple people related to that portion of the industry. I don't really have like any deep ties to Blizzard or anything like that, but I just know some people either that do work there, have worked there, work at Microsoft with that long-standing battle of, are we ever going to actually be able to buy this or not? But things seem to be, from everybody that I've talked to, not perfect, but better. And I allowed myself to get Diablo 2 Resurrected because it was on sale. And I'm a huge Diablo fan. And we went through and we just beat Hell Mode with our first characters. And that game is really fun, even to this day. However, I will say that as we were really getting toward like the very, very, very end game stuff, man, old school games pull some real shady shit to pretend they're difficult, which is not cool. Like you can die in a load screen because it processes them before it processes you. So you go through a warp gate and it's like, oh, by the way, you're dead. I was like, what? That's not, I haven't even played yet. What do you mean I'm dead? It's like, oh man, you should have avoided all those things you didn't know that we spawned yet. I was like,
okay.
Yeah. So that's been my non-ESO gaming.
Are you excited oh, sorry.
I remember that exact thing happening to me back with the original Diablo 2.
Yep. They really tried to keep it close to the original with the annoyances as well as all the awesomeness.
Are you looking forward to Diablo 4?
I am, and it's kind of weird because originally I was specifically not looking at anything Diablo because Diablo's up there as one of my like favorite series. And when I was kind of like opposed to the Blizzard thing, I was like, no reason to look at this because I'm probably not going to play it because I just default assumed it was just going to stay trash. Yeah. And I would be pleasantly surprised if anything changed. And since it's sort of been moving in a good direction, I kind of like info dumped on anything that was there. And I was like, oh man, now I really want this. I was like...
But at least you've now joined in at a point where there is a release date for it and you know when it's coming. And,
yes.
You know, so you haven't had that like couple of years.
Color me jaded. I think it will be delayed though.
I mean, yeah. Like
it almost sounds like you play video games or something.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
But at least we know it's coming at some point.
Yeah, it's got builds that people are playing, which is that's already more than some games launch like, so.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't have anything approaching the monetization of Immortal, I'm actually looking forward to 4 as well.
Yeah.
I don't think it will. Immortal's a different platform.
It is, honestly. So Immortal is a dumpster fire of monetization, but I actually played Immortal on my phone after I because I was, I was like, oh yeah, I'll try this out. And man, the bombardment of like, buy this is nonstop. But I've gotten real good at getting those little things off my screen. And that game, not to sound like a jackass, is so easy. Why would you buy anything in that game? Like, the game basically beats itself. So, like, I really didn't understand. I guess, like, Turbo Endgame is maybe where it gets super different. I don't know. It is real mediocre.
Yeah.
All right, but we're actually not here to discuss Blizzard games.
Is that like another podcast or something you guys do?
Yeah.
It's another one that one of us does anyway.
I got that covered tomorrow night. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive into our proper discussion about starting progression. So, Lotus, what would you consider the most essential advice you can give for someone who's just starting progression, like freshly into the idea at all?
Yeah. So there's so to preface, I don't have a lot of other MMO experience. I have a lot of ESO experience, but other raids I've been told run very different than the way progression works in Elder Scrolls Online. But from an Elder Scrolls Online perspective, as somebody who has started and stopped prog and who went into the series with zero idea of how anything works in an MMO, it was really just like, oh, I really like the Elder Scrolls. I'll play this. And then it just suddenly became, I want to do all the stuff in the game, which required me to get into progression groups and trials and dungeons and arenas and stuff like that. When it comes to ESO, and I guess maybe it probably applies to everything. One of the things that I tell people a lot when they're new to it, whether it's something I've run or otherwise been part of, and it took me a little bit to realize it myself when I was starting out, do not be afraid of failure when you do these things, which sort of seems like a shock to a lot of people who are very new. You'll see a video of something done. It's like, oh, here's us doing this trifecta. We did the speedrun, hard mode, no death. Here it is. Here's a video. Everybody's running in sync. It looks perfect. And everybody's like, oh, okay. And then they try to do it. And people are dead left and right. And you're wiping and you're exploding. And you've been in there for 2 hours. It's like, you did that in 15 minutes. We couldn't do it in 2 hours. Like, this is impossible. Most of the time, everybody starts like that. Like, it doesn't just click. You all fit. The video
they don't show you the 500 wipes before they got the trifecta.
Yes. The one that I always tell people, because it's, in my circle of friends, it became like a running joke for a while. I've got a perspective of just my Griffin Heart, which is the trifecta in Cloud Rest. And it's me on, the off tank type of thing, and whatever. Our crew goes through. We do it in like 9 minutes or something like that, and nobody dies. And it's +3, which is all the minis at the same time as the main boss, and it looks streamlined, and it was. And I didn't show people the 9 months and 11 teams that I got either dropped from, disbanded, or just sat there for hours and were like, we can't even kill one of these minis. And it's just like, probably that one, because it took so long, bordered probably on thousands of attempts type of thing. But like the amount of failure you have in progression stuff is like sort of overwhelming. And I can understand why it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize that you don't just go in and you're not expected to be perfect when you start. It doesn't work like that.
And it does take a real... so this is a balance that I have with my 2 World of Warcraft teams. So the raid team we run is a very, very super casual raid night.
Yep.
And whereas the Mythic Plus team is a bit more kind of serious, and we do Keystone Master, and we do that kind of at a relatively high level.
Yep.
So the Mythic Plus team, they're totally fine. They understand how this works. You can take it in, you smash your head against something, you're like, well, that didn't go right. Come out, try again, totally fine. But for a casual raid team, it can be really difficult when you go in, you do the tactics, you learn the tactics, you wipe. You're wiping and you're wiping, and you get to like the 5th or the 6th wipe, and people start getting it in one night, and people start getting a bit like, oh, this isn't fun. I'm not having fun. I've learned the thing and I'm doing my bit, and other people aren't doing their bit, or other people are still learning, or we don't quite have the damage, or we don't quite have the healing balance. And there's periods of time when nothing's happening because I've got like live logs up and I'm trying to work out which bit's going wrong. So where it is that I need to be like, is this a DPS problem? Is this a heal problem? And because I'm quite often streaming, sometimes I've got quite lots of like other chat channels going on that I don't want to be slagging people off whilst I'm sitting streaming or anything, or not that it's slagging people off, but you don't want to be discussing where the problem points are. So there's sort of periods of silence whilst we're trying to work out what the best tactics are. And
it's why I can't stream my progs. People have asked so many times, and I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. I don't have any multitasking skills to begin with, so I'm like, that definitely ain't gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, it does make it hard, and it does force me quite often to make a lot of rate leading decisions probably too quickly. So sometimes I'll make the wrong call on something because it's like, got to keep going because there's people in chat and there's like stuff going on, and you've got to kind of keep it moving. And it's like, oh shit, that was the wrong call. Let's do that again. But it's a really different mindset to get into, especially when all the rest of the MMO is like, go, do this, finish this quest, do this other thing, do this thing. To come into a mindset where you're like, okay, we're going to do this. And quite often for a long fight, I'll give you the first 2, like maybe phase 1 of the fight. Like in WoW, quite often it has like fights have specific phases, and I don't necessarily think that's how things go in here. So it's
not really. I mean, there are points where that happens, but more often than not, they have their set of attacks and stuff like that, and a lot of it's very reactionary to what they're doing. But it's not, you don't have they've definitely got ones that have phases to the fights and stuff like that. But a lot of times that's not as much the thing. Or the phases are very short. So the trick to doing speed runs sometimes could be like, okay, well, see if we can get all of these things to happen at once so that we can kind of blitz through it really, really quick. There's less chance somebody's going to die. And then, it saves you on time, obviously, if you're not sitting around waiting for the next one, because with ESO, the answer to almost everything which is a problem for a lot of people, hit it harder, the fight gets easier. There's very few scenarios where more damage just straight up isn't the answer, which pigeonholes some of the harder content into very specific things, which is weird for a game that's very play how you want, and you can, but a lot of times you make your life easier if you just nuke it harder, which is a little weird, and that's where you get a little bit of the disconnect sometimes between groups in ESO.
Yeah, because So there are differences in the way, like, so generally speaking, the harder you hit something, the quicker you'll get through something. But
Right.
WoW bosses quite often have unskippable mechanics. So the boss is going to get to 75% health and he's going to do something, or something's going to happen, or you're going to change phase, or something's going to happen. And so you
or a scripted intermission, like the dance at the Castle Nathria last expansion.
Sometimes. So in Castle Nathria, there was 3 bosses. They've got you have to kill them in a specific order. Each boss is giving some different mechanics, and when you kill one of them, the remaining 2 then change their mechanics. But when one of the bosses gets at random, it's not random, it's a timed interval, but like periodically a dance happens, and you literally, like, a spot lights up and you have to run to your spot, and then the boss at the front shouts dance instructions. So
interesting.
Sasha left, you have to step right, you have to boogie down.
I see.
It's and if you get it wrong, you take a fuck ton of damage. But it's a great moment. It's like the healers love it because it was a place for us to get all of our mana back.
Okay.
I don't have to do anything. I just have to do the dance, and I'm having
and damage dealers loved it because if you did it right, you also got a buff with a bunch of haste.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, see, and that's one of those things where it's like, I feel like even the scripted things in ESO sometimes end up because so this is just what I've heard. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things about ESO with their like unlock system for achievements and stuff like that, the concept of like trifectas or perfectas, depending upon how you want to like refer to it, but like having a speed run, having a no death, having hard modes is one thing, but needing to do all 3 of those at the same time has become like a very specific ESO thing, because other raids or dungeons and stuff like that are designed where like speed is one thing, but like there's literally a point where it's like, well, okay, but if you've got these other mechanics, you're intentionally making a fight last a set amount of time. Yeah. So like having this weird number here that you can't, okay, well, you got to be under this speed. Well, it's like, well, if you drag out the fight with too many scripted things, that's kind of a cheap way of making it so that I can't actually get the speed run. And there are a couple things in ESO like that, where it's just like, for example, there's one of the dungeons is Castle Thorn. And
that's the one with the blood swimming pool.
Yes. So like, for example, like our approach throughout that dungeon with my with my dungeon team, shout out to the Thracian Slayers, who we're kind of not really a group at the moment, but we just are running anything. But they my teammates are very, very good. So I always appreciate like some of the wacko stuff that they're allowed, like they do, because it makes my life easier because I don't have to tank as long when everything's dead. But like there are some scripted phases in that where it's just like, here's a phase, here's a phase, here's a phase. And we got to the point specifically in the hard mode to end that place where, okay, well, you have this point where you have to like pick up these little scamp hearts and you have to throw them to knock her out of the sky. And there's 2 phases, and then there's this like final execute thing. And we came to the point where they were doing so much damage, we could just barely skip one of the flying things. So that knocks like 2 minutes off the entire thing. Most people are not gonna do that, like, because that's just they were just doing astronomical damage where it was like, holy shit, we skipped it. We were like, oh, you don't even have to do it again. Like, this is great. But like that whole segment, it's like you're intended to do that. So it's like, is the speedrun, like, do you account for doing a speedrun challenge designed around intentionally breaking the design of the dungeon, or do you have it so that it's supposed to be, well, the speed run relates to you doing the dungeon fast but within the dungeon working? Like, should you be required to break the game in order to get speed runs? And then it's like, well, okay, at that point, where do you draw the line between what the devs might consider like hacking or cheating and do it? Because it's like, well, okay, where's the line between me doing this fairly or me doing this like, oh, well, no, that was exploiting. It's like, well, okay, but if I don't exploit, I don't get the speed run. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, so they've kind of got a weird situation, I feel like, for ESO with that, where it's like I feel the speedrun causes some weirdnesses. Usually they're pretty light, I guess. Like that the times aren't usually, outside a couple things, that stringent. Like you can make them with plenty of time usually, but it's a weird kind of sword just hanging over you. It's like, well, also do it fast because, like, you know, take too long, be too safe, you'll miss this, and then that'll be very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only place that you have so speedruns in WoW don't exist outside the Mythic Plus concept.
Yep.
So Mythic Plus.
Outside of, I think there's a couple of achievements for bosses from way back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's a couple of achievements for bosses, but those are usually for individual raid bosses rather than like the
whole thing. Like, yeah.
So yeah, there was some timed achievements for Wrath of the Lich King era raid bosses, I think. But generally speaking, it's all within the Mythic Plus now. So that's a whole key system. So you've got a dungeon and you've got a timer to do the whole dungeon, and you need to kill all of the bosses, and you need to kill a specific percent. You need to fill a bar to kill a specific amount of trash. So you can't skip all of the trash in a dungeon.
Yeah. So started including that in their achievements. They went from being like, kill this boss and complete this dungeon in this amount of time to complete all encounters in this amount of time, where it's like, oh, okay, we can't skip anything, which was, again, Castlethorne problem. One of the mobs when it launched was actually had the potential of being under the map. So people would get the speed run and it would not count any of it because it's like, well, you didn't kill this group. And then we found out that there was a vampire under the map.
Hiding in the floor.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, one of my friends actually, they actually had to do the trifecta 5 times before it counted.
Wow.
Yeah, they just kept doing it. They're like, it just doesn't work. It just straight up doesn't work, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, that is beyond frustrating. Why do you keep trying? Just wait for them to fix it.
Yeah, so the other thing that happens in Mythic Plus is every time you get a key, the whole instance gets harder. So if you do it and you do the whole thing and you kill all the bosses with the particular amount of trash, you get a timed run, then your key value goes up. And at particular key breakpoints, you get new affixes, they're called. So the dungeons will then get harder because they add in new mechanics. And those mechanics can be all sorts of things. They might be a thing called Sanguine, where every time you kill a trash mob, it drops a pool of red on the floor, and that pool of red damages you and heals other trash.
Okay, yep.
You know, this kind of shit. And then so by the time you get to the end you get to a 10 level key, you've got 4 affixes. So you've got those 4 affixes, and then you're also it's getting harder and harder. But there is no, outside of some specific raid achievements in Wrath of the Lich King, there is no undying there's no requirement for people to not die. So a kind of like a no death thing just doesn't really exist. That is done.
So I guess that is, I guess that's more to the case. Yeah, I was going to say, prepare to die a lot when you prog an ESO. It's part of learning, because ESO is actually mostly about repetition and just learning the fights so that it becomes second nature. That's actually largely how you get better at ESO, is just reps. That's how it's, you don't just walk in and just beat it. Like, it's usually just practice it, and then it clicks because you're just so used to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's certainly similar to WoW. I don't know if it's similar to all other MMOs. Do you think there's a sweet spot in terms of CP progression where you need to be in order to kind of start pushing?
Yes. There's some, it's a little overinflated sometimes, what people want. But honestly, I don't know the hard values off the top of my head. And it did change from when they first revamped the CP to now. They changed how some of the values worked. But the big thing is, like, I feel like it's around 1400. You are mathematically as powerful, because most of it's like optional progression. Like, it's like horizontal progression is the word I'm looking for, where it's like, okay, there's this or this, not this is just objectively damage, like, or this is objectively health. There are some of those in the trees, like the constellations. But if I'm not mistaken, I think somewhere around the like early to mid 1,000 range, somewhere around there, you get all of the straight power increases. Then anything beyond that, it just makes it easier because you can flip things in and out without having to spend money to then respec. So like somewhere around the early thousands, you objectively aren't going to get any stronger from the champion point range. It just becomes easier to flip bonuses that you get, which is nice because then it's just like, oh, we'll do this for this one. They'll do this for this one.
Yeah, change this slottable out for this slottable.
Exactly. But that's much more of a convenience thing than a requirement thing. And like I said, I think it's somewhere around mid thousands, like somewhere 12, 14, somewhere around there. You've got as much power as you can physically get out of the champion point trees. And then it's just kind of convenience. So if anybody says you need to be like, oh, 2000 CP to do this, it's like, get out of here.
Yeah. No.
Okay. So a lot of the guides that I've been reading have sets for if you haven't done any trials yet, then starter sets, then optimal sets.
Yep.
In your experience, is this actually practical advice?
It's practical advice, but the thing that I feel like tends to happen more than it should, people take that a little too much as gospel and not a lot of the stuff. And the thing is, some of the best guide creators and build creators for Elder Scrolls Online, you got your Nephuses, your Skinny Cheeks, Alcast, like all these people who are very, very good at theory crafting, and they have these routines down so well so that they can explain how the mechanics work and stuff like that. Almost always they specifically say this is either the mathematical min-max, that's not subjective. That is unobjective. Like this mathematically would do the most in this scenario. Now there's a whole bunch of things. Can you keep your uptime like that? Well, no. Okay. Well, then that's not the best for you, but that doesn't mean it's not mathematically the best thing in the game. The game also does not require mathematically the best thing all the time. That's not even remotely close. And the other thing with builds, a lot of times it even says in them, these are Skinny Cheeks does a great job of giving you options, lots and lots of options, like try this, or this pairs well with this. But a lot of them are meant to be starting points, guides, explanations as to why these things work. And it's like, yeah, these are going to be really good. But if one part of it doesn't quite work, there's a lot of flexibility. These are kind of like a draft or an outline, and you kind of make what works for you personally, and or when you're doing team-based stuff, you as a team. Composition matters a lot when you get into into progression stuff. You want your teams to get the most buffs and debuffs active all the time, but some things are a lot easier to keep going. Some things are easier for certain classes type of thing. Zen is like a set in the game that gives you a huge damage buff type of deal. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, who do you run this class on? Well, you run it on a Dragon Knight, because literally just being a Dragon Knight and doing light attacks at all, which is required to like maximize damage, just keeps it active. So it's like, okay, well then why wouldn't it just be on them? Like it makes sense. Can you do it another way? Sure. But you just need to know why you're doing stuff. A lot of times they're great for giving you direction for things, because a lot of our successful progs and trifectas and all these things, they're not in optimized gear. I had somebody in a Discord once asking, I don't know if they were new or what, but they were just asking how to do a specific dungeon trifecta. And I mentioned the setup we used, and they were like, well, yeah, but the tank in the group probably shouldn't have used this specific thing. And I was like, yeah, well, it worked out pretty well. They were like, well, there must be a new tank. I was like, well, okay, I actually have the trifecta and you're asking me how to do it. So not to be condescending, but I'm going to tell you it works because I'm currently sitting on having the achievement and you're asking how to get the achievement. There's a bit of a disconnect here. And I don't think you realize I'm the tank that just told you how to do it. And trust me, it works, because here's the video of it working. Like, I don't know how else to simplify. And it was like, oh, I guess for certain setups it could work. It was like, yes, that's what I was saying. Like, that's the point. I'm not saying you can't do anything else. I'm not going for the world's fastest version of the dungeon. I wanted the trifecta from the dungeon. You don't have anything yet, so I'm assuming maybe before going for the fastest in the world, you start by doing it at all.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You don't need to start at the end point and then be frustrated because it doesn't work. You can work up to something, which I think a lot of times might get lost, where it's like, well, we have to use best in slot everything. Not necessarily, because it's like, for a long time, the go-to set for tanks was this set called Alkosh. And didn't matter if you knew how to use it. Everybody's just like, okay, you're on tank, you use Alkosh. And I'm certainly not the only person to have the situation where I was like in groups and I took it off and put on a different set. And if people would ask, I'm like, well, no, I can use it, but like, y'all are taking every synergy I have or just straight up not throwing synergies for me to interact with, which is just like a combo that you do in the game. They throw something out, you can interact with it. And people were like, well, yeah, but you need to wear Alkosh. I was like, you don't know how Alkosh works because it literally triggers off synergies. So if I have no synergies, this set doesn't do anything. It has no point. And it's one of those things about, it's usually a good way to just tell the difference between somebody who is parroting what they've read or understanding what they've read from somebody else. And that's just it. And it's like, it's fine. I don't like telling other people how to set up. I would much rather just tell me what to set up and I will look up the best way to use it. But there's a lot of options with ESO, which I think is very good. And most of these guides are going to give you like a good starting point and you adjust it to make it yours, with your team, with yourself, like whatever the case. Because like in 4-player stuff, small stuff, I'm so distracted by doing other stuff. My Powerful Assault, which is another like tank set, my uptime on it sucks. So I don't use it. I found a workaround because I was like, I'm just bad at this in 4-player. It doesn't bother me in like big trials. That's fine. But like, I'm just not good with it. So I'm like, well, what's something else I can utilize to be more efficient that I can do more with? And easy enough. I found several alternatives. And it's like, well, yeah, somebody who could keep that uptime might be better at that then. But it's like, I'm not going to cripple my team because of like, well, that I have to use this. It's like, well, in this scenario, not so much. In another scenario, yes. So again, always use that stuff as like an outline. And I don't know any actual like good content designer type of thing that will tell you it's this or nothing. It's very much of the, I wish I was at the top end if there's no room for debate. Yeah. If there's room for debate on it, you probably understand it more than somebody who's like, no, you have to do this type of deal. It's at least in my experience so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about ESO is that kind of none of those sets ever, like, because you've not got the problem that WoW has got. We're now level 70, whereas last expansion we were level 60. So all
of you outgrow it.
Gear doesn't work anymore. Like in ESO, you can wear all of the sets.
Right.
They all just sit there, and you can go back and get them. And there's
long ago that was not the case.
And in addition to that, they actually just straight up turn off the set bonuses for old tiers.
Oh
yeah.
In WoW, yeah.
Yeah, that's that would really, I was going to say that's certainly one way of making sure that it's no longer relevant.
Yeah, it was. I'm not very. They did that at the end of Shadowlands, and I wasn't very happy that they did it. So there was this couple of week period where they just literally they were like, yeah, we've just turned everything off. So you're set.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, they did it for pre-patch, didn't they?
They did it for pre-patch. There were some specific reasons why they did it. I didn't think it was okay. But there we go. C'est la vie. Gearing in WoW is always the thing that people like to talk about the most, and it's the thing that I find the most boring. So, but yeah, I like the fact that you can use, that there are so many sets available. And it's really just a question of, I mean, I guess wearing a full set is what you need to be, like if you've got two
sure. But then there's even benefits to mixing and matching parts of sets. Like, you'll even get some of that sometimes. There have been metas where people are wearing 3 pieces of a 5 set, and there's the mythics, which are now part of the game where you can only wear one of those at a time. So it's like, okay, well, do you wear that, and do you knock one of your 5 pieces down to a 4-piece set, or do you only use half a monster set? There's a lot of variety to work with in Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah. How are you do you think dungeons are as a sort of preparation for trials? So in WoW, you kind of have to do dungeons before you get ready for raids because of the way eye levels work, because of this gear thing, actually, that we were just talking about. The eye level of the gear, you have to work through dungeons to get the right eye level to then be able to get into the raid, which then gives a higher eye level. And actually Mythic Plus has become almost like compulsory now, so the people who don't like Mythic Plus are really annoyed if they're like proper hardcore raiders. But what's the sort of link between the two in ESO? Do you think you need to do dungeons before you get into a trial?
It's a little I don't know. It's a little weird with ESO. They definitely, a lot of the stuff is a lot of fun to do. But unfortunately with Elder Scrolls Online, there is a serious problem with getting people to the next step on the ladder of difficulty or progression or whatever. And it's like, there's a lot more openness, I find, with 4-player content, which might sound weird because there's less people. So you'd think, well, okay, but there's less roles required to be filled. So you get a little more variety, where when you have more people, well, okay, you have more people on the field, but at the same time, there's now more things that need to be covered. So there's ironically less because you need to specifically have this and specifically have this. You kind of have a much harder time getting everything with 4-person content. So you kind of pick the things that are most important to you. So you end up with like a little more variety and stuff. Not as much with trials. You'll learn a lot of mechanics and you kind of get the whole like how to prog and stuff like that. But I'm not going to lie, it's a pretty different beast going from 4 teammates to, well, I guess 3 teammates to 11 teammates, because you're not your own teammate. I guess you could be if you want to, but yeah, exactly. It feels very different. They're very different beasts, in my opinion. I think they have a very different feel. Equally fun a lot of times, but there's also I guess there's like levels of stress, for lack of a better word, where it's like, if you die in a 4-player thing, it's 4 people just boop right back up and you figure it out. You die and 11 people die with you. It's like, oh, okay, this feels not so great because I just took out a bunch of people as the tank and I forgot to block fire on a dragon or something like that, whatever. Yeah, there's definitely some overlap, but honestly, I know a lot of people who raid and have basically nothing to do with 4-player content. And I know people who do all the 4-player challenges and like barely ever touch trials. A lot of times the gear will overlap because you'll get something you want from the other thing. Like, oh, this trial drops this gear. So like that definitely relates. But I don't know. There's definitely some overlap, and you will know more if you prog. Like if you've got practice in a hard mode for anything, you can definitely feel more competent in the other thing. Yeah. But there's definitely a learning curve that's different between the two of them for sure.
Do you feel like there's a lot of sort of personal responsibility in trials in ESO? Like, so you're the tank, so if you miss something,
right? So funny enough,
literally roast everyone. But
over I guess the last year maybe, I like have always tanked, and I didn't even go into Elder Scrolls Online really knowing what the Holy Trinity thing was. I was just like, this is how I play the video game. People were like, cool, you're a tank. I was like, if you say so, whatever. And then I kind of just learned what all that meant and got into it. And I enjoy doing that. And for years and years and years, that's all I play because I prefer to only really play one character. And then shared achievements let me screw around with a little bit of other stuff because it was like, okay, cool. Well, now it's not locked off if I have to do stuff. And some of the things like solo arenas are designed for damage dealers, which is obnoxious if you're not a damage dealer. And back in the day, I belligerently beat Vet Maelstrom Arena on my tank because people were like, well, no, you have to make a different character. And I was like, screw you, I'll do what I want. And 31 hours later, I beat it. And people were like, what is the matter with you? And I was like, Now, granted that things have changed over the years and stuff like that, and you can definitely do stuff better with power creep and whatever. But I did it, and I was like, well, that was real dumb. It was real dumb that I did that. But now once I started messing around with DPS a little bit, it was like, okay, well, this is different. Like, I don't mind this. And I got more into it, and I found a class that I kind of liked. And now that they're shared achievements, I can goof with it. It's Guaranir. Ark hates it. And he'll live with it forever because now it's confirmed Guaranir has way more clears than Ark does. So he's actually the doppelganger, and my made-up character is the real one. That's just those are the rules.
Yeah, exactly how that works.
Yeah, but like from the responsibility standpoint, I realized when going through stuff, going into trials, I had cleared a bunch of stuff on my tank or whatever, and I got a couple trifecta, and then we were going to the new trial, Dreadsail Reef, and we had multiple tanks and stuff like that. Cloud Rust is a specific thing. We have 3 tanks, which is a little odd. Usually you have 2 for a trial, sometimes 1. But we had an extra floater tank, and everybody's like, okay, well, who wants to not tank for the next thing? And I was like, whatever. I was like, I'll mess around with it as long as you set your standards real low. And everybody's like, whatever, who cares? Like, we're figuring out the new trials anyways, so what does it matter? And I was messing around with it, and I had never really DPS'd seriously on anything like that. And I realized for big content like raids, I don't think I like tanking actually that much anymore. And it's because of that. The first couple of times I died, usually you try to keep comms clear during progression stuff, because you need to hear the most important roles doing callouts, which is a thing you learn over time, that it's like, well, you can't have random banter if people are missing what's coming because they can't see it or whatever. It's just like a later on tactic. And there were a couple times where I needed to mute my mic because I was in the middle of being like, shit. And I was like, wait, nobody cares I died. Holy shit, nobody cares I died. I'm just some crappy DPS off to the side, and I screwed up a mechanic, and we didn't wipe because I'm dead and nobody cares. And somebody comes over and reses me, and I'm right back in the fight. I was like, this is great. It's like, and I realized that in big groups like that, I actually prefer being a DPS, and not that DPSs aren't super important to how you clear things, because the other thing won't die if you don't damage it. But man, are you really, really expendable as a damage dealer. And I think I like that more when it relates to that many people. Smaller content, I still like being, my tank and stuff like that. But now I basically, I will begrudgingly tank trials. I'm always like, oh yeah, I'll DPS. And people are still not used to it. A lot of times people are like, wait, you have a DPS? I was like, yep, I'll totally. And they're like, oh. But then I was told, specifically with Dreadsail Reef, when we were learning it, when it came out with High Isle, our trial lead was like, you're real proactive, because every time they were like, okay, so who wants to do Portal? I'm like, ooh. And because I'm so used to having to be responsible for so much, like I need to make sure my buffs and debuffs are going. I need to have him taunted. I need to have all this stuff going. I need to make sure he's positioned right. And now it's like, I need to hit the thing to make it go dead. And I was like, wow, this is real easy. And I'm not the best parser by any means. I'm not dropping 130K on everything. That's not I'm fine. I get through all the vet stuff and the hard mode stuff. It's fine. But I'm not top tier. So I'm just parsing along, and then it was like, oh, something to do. So I kept volunteering for things, because it's like, well, I want to do this just because I'm used to having all this responsibility, and now I don't. And I kind of liked that change, I guess. So there's definitely a level of that, which I think is either it kind of helps design what do you want to do out of the situation. I think that's actually very relevant. There is a level of responsibility that you how much of it do you want to take on? And a lot of the new design, the new trial is very good at everybody's got something they're doing. But the last few trials they've had, it is very tank heavy, where it's really tanks down, we wipe. It's just okay, anybody else can die and it's not that big of a deal. Tank dies, all right, wipe it up, we're dead. It's just Sunspire specifically, it's always funny when somebody's a new tank, and it's funny in like a haha way, not like they're crap or anything like that. But the first time somebody is not used to that dragon breath and it just melts them, and the dragon goes from, well, tank's dead, and he just whips the breath past everybody and just like eliminates 11 more people instantly. And it's like, okay, well, we're all dead. Like,
I don't want you to feel bad or anything, but you did just wipe the whole race.
yeah, but you did objectively kill everyone. Like, so yeah, there's definitely, I think it's a lot of times easier to get used to things because there's much less pressure on that player from a damage dealer perspective, a healer perspective, and then kind of the tank recently has had a lot. Dreadsail Reef, everybody's kind of responsible for something, which is cool. I think that was, I also think Dreadsail Reef is incredibly well done compared to some of the other ones. Whether I like most of the trials, but just like comparatively, that one felt very, very well designed beyond just being fun. But yeah, there's definitely like, I think it's good to find the spot that fits for how much responsibility you want to have.
Yeah, I definitely, as a WoW raid leader, this is definitely, you need to know kind of who are your people who can they just want to do the DPS and then not, because every time you're like, okay, who would like to press the button or do the thing or go over there? So
Yep.
I need 2 volunteers to do a thing, and they'll be silent.
Yes, silence.
Absolute silence.
Yep. And we definitely ran into that with Dreadsail, and that was the situation. The trial lead was just like, okay, you cannot volunteer for literally every DPS role. It was like, me. I got this. And then I blow people up because I didn't know what the hell I was doing anyways. But it was like, oh, well, there's 3 of us in the portal, so what the hell? Somebody pick me up. I don't care. Like,
but yeah, I think you do as a raid leader, you definitely need to know like who are the people who in that moment you can be like, okay, you and you and you are going to go and do the thing.
Yep.
You have to go and learn how to do the thing. And who are the people that if you tell them to do that are just going to fall to pieces and then won't be able to do any DPS because they're worrying about the thing that they need to do that you want them to do. It's definitely a range of options available.
As you learn too, I mean, I'm not a super experienced trial lead. I actually can't stand leading, but sometimes you kind of have to just so stuff gets done. One of the things though that has been at least my approach to doing stuff is try to pair somebody who's super new to a position with somebody who's experienced at a position, because then if something goes wrong, if the other person is super experienced, it can still be recovered and people don't have to just have that pressure of like, oh, I wiped everybody again, I'm sorry. It's like a lot of times you can save it, or at least have enough time to be like, okay, we're gonna die all, but I'm able to be alive down here for a while. Let me show you what it's like, it's like, Cloud Rest is always a good example because there's so many portal mechanics that you go through. Oops, Boots is on high alert. Sorry.
That's all right.
Booty girl, I'm here. What do you call it? So like you'll have an experienced tank go down with a new DPS or vice versa type of thing. And it's like you give them time to learn what's going on because it doesn't need to be a big rush. So
yeah.
All right. I am going to go ahead and remind you that this show is part of Bonus Roll Productions. You can find our show and a lot of other great MMO-focused podcasts, such as But Wait, There's Lore, a podcast reborn, and Warcraft Brew over at bonusroll.gg. You can also join us in our chat room every other Saturday around 4 p.m. London, 10 a.m. Central at twitch.tv/bonusrollproductions.
Good question.
I was waiting to make sure Lotus had his mic on.
yeah, that's fine. I was making sure that Boots wasn't going to explode as my wife just got back.
Oh, exciting.
Yes, she heard the garage door open and went on high alert. So
The other
like we're either being invaded or someone came home.
So how healthy or toxic would you rate the pug community for trials?
Oh, it is so, I definitely am much more in favor of like overall the Elder Scrolls community or the ESO community has been very, very nice. Most people are super pleasant to deal with and stuff like that. When you get into pug stuff, it's really a mixed bag, because you will get people with very different expectations. And I think Nephis tends to say it the best, where when you're in a pug, you really should not go in with any expectations because you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know their scenario, whatever. If you're willing to go in and pug, just accept the fact that you don't know what you're getting into. And if you don't want to deal with that, then don't do that. Like, that's straightforward enough. And a lot of times people are pugging just because they want to get something done, which I totally get. Because if you don't have a team, that can be problematic. But again, the problem is you don't know what you're getting in pugs. And a lot of times, and there's even debate on what people consider toxic and not toxic. Like the huge debate in Elder Scrolls Online is fake tanking with dungeons, where people will go in as the wrong role because it gets through the queue faster because the queue tends to be a little weird and very DPS heavy. So people will queue as a fake healer, or which a lot of people don't mind as much because you have so much ability to self-heal type of thing. Queuing as a fake tank is a little more problematic because, well, if nobody has aggro, this is going to get real dicey because you don't know who it's chasing after.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find that issue tends to become more of a problem once you actually start hitting vet, as opposed to normal. Normal,
Right.
I haven't seen people raise issues on that much at all.
Much, no, certainly not. I mean, it's definitely there because you also don't know what people's skill level is. So people that are not super experienced, and normal is something of a challenge for them because they've never seen it before. Just having a werewolf behemoth come out of left field and uppercut them, and it's like, what did I do wrong? It's like, I don't even know. So it's like where that should have been covered by a tank. Personally, I don't really care because, again, I don't really have any expectations. However, my thing is I usually ask just outright, where some people are, I don't know, shy, or whether they just don't want to be rude. I don't care about being rude. I would rather just know. So, like, if I see a boss running around just slugging at everybody, or I'm dodge rolling constantly on my DPS, and it's caused plenty of hate whispers, which is very funny because some people get very defensive very quickly. There was one, and I blocked out his name because maybe the person was just having a shit day, and that's not usually who they are. But the dialogue between them and me was just like the most. It went from 0 to 60 so fast, where we were in March of Sacrifices and we were just doing I was doing a vet for some reason because I think I needed a geode or whatever, and nobody was on. And the boss is just running around, just slugging everybody. And I was like, should I slot a taunt? Do we not have a tank? And they're immediately like, I'm so sick of people telling me how to tank. I was like, wait, so you're actually a tank? And they were like, people are such trash. They think there's only one way to play. I was like, I just want to know if you're a tank. Should I dodge roll or not? That's all I care about. I don't give a shit what you're doing. I just need to know, do I need to dodge heavy attacks? And should I slot a taunt so other people don't have to dodge heavy attacks? Because I'll just be a DPS with a taunt. I think we lost Shanty.
Shanty's power's just gone out.
Perfect.
He's just messaged me and says, yeah, his power has just gone out.
Amazing. Well, hopefully it comes back.
So that's exciting. I guess we'll...
All right. I guess we'll just hope he returns in a second once he reboots.
Well, I don't know when he says power just cut out, whether he beams all of the power to his house.
Yeah, maybe he just...
He's in Chicago. I think there's a lot of weather.
I was going to say, is it super windy at the moment? We had snow the other day in New England, but it's gone now.
Yeah, I don't know what the weather is like in Chicago. I know, I know parts of California, like San Francisco, have had some horrible weather this week.
Yeah,
really awful weather this week. But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, his power just went out.
All right. Well, hopefully Shanty comes back.
Well, hopefully Shanty comes back.
We miss you already, Shanty.
Oh, I love it when you start doing a new thing and we'll stream it. It'll be totally cool. Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
The wonders of streaming. But what the hell were we? Oh, yeah. So Pug, it's so this person just went on a tirade against me, and I was just curious for info, and it devolved for the entire dungeon. And then because, again, I'm always for trying to help people out. But if you're just going to be belligerently a jackass, which he was just being I don't really care if people were just being mean to me or whatever, but he was just like telling the other players how shit they were and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't like that. That's like unnecessarily rude. And I whispered the other two people, and I was like, well, this guy thinks he's the greatest person alive, and he isn't doing his role anyways, and he's yelling at us for all being the worst humans and stuff like that. I was like, maybe I just call a vote to kick him right at the last boss so that he helps us the entire way by doing nothing. And then so we did, and we kicked him out, to which he didn't get credit for after all of that being, and all it came from was me just asking, should I slot a taunt? Like that was all that started it. So that person, total whack job. The other two people were just like, they finished up the dungeon with us. We actually waited and got another person in, and they were like, oh, you're already at the end? And we were like, yep, you can just port to us. And they joined us, and they got a free clear, and they even were like, oh, sweet, thanks for the quick run. I was like, yep, enjoy your daily. Like, so mixed bags. You get very mixed bags. And it's just, it really is. You just have the pool of all the players, and you don't know what you're going to get. I've encountered super helpful people that just are happy to help. I've encountered brand new people that don't know what they're doing. I've encountered people who are beyond super good at the game. We had a dungeon queue, which we were just doing random our pledges for the day. And we did our first pledge, and it was our group, me and my buddy. And we queued, and we immediately got two other people. And it was clearly two groups of two. It was us, we knew each other, and them, they knew each other. And none of us were on mic. Like, we were on mic with each other, but we didn't hear them. And I assumed they were talking to each other, right? And we went through, and we aced the first pledge. And we did the hard mode because we're like, oh, we get some bonus keys. Like, cool. So then we just put in, like, do you want to keep other pledge? And they were like, thumbs up. So we're like, okay. So we went and did the other pledge. And they were like, DLC pledge? And they gave a thumbs up again. And it was Ice Reach, which was one of the newer DLCs, and at the time, and we went through, and we actually got the trifecta with two pugs.
Awesome.
And my buddy was like, dude, I didn't have that trifecta. So he got a new title out of it and everything. He's like, who the hell did we just pug with? And the other two people immediately put in chat, so pug trifecta, best pug ever? And we're all like, okay. Like, so it was just like, it was a fun thing. So it was like, and everybody we all had fun with it. And it was just like, and they just said, like, great joining with you guys, have a good one. And they bailed out, and then we bailed out, and that was the end of it. It was just a interaction type of thing, but it was, so you never really know what you're going to get. Like,
do you think it's better or worse for trials? Because obviously when you're doing dungeons,
right? Because there's no matchmaking for trials.
Yeah,
you have to specifically agree to it. So I feel like the onus is a little more on the person, because you're like not even just queuing, you have to actively accept something. I feel like trials are less prone to working than dungeons. But on that same token, I feel like you'll oftentimes get people who are maybe a little more aware of what they're getting into, so the patience level is a little higher. Yeah. Not universally, people are still going to get antsy, or you wipe once and they're like, fuck you guys, and leave, and it's like, okay, why did you show up to this? Like, but again, it really helps to go in just with very low expectations of assume the team is bad and be pleasantly surprised if they're not. It's really the best advice I can give you. And unfortunately, the other thing is you might get more people that are understanding in a trial if you pug it. But because of the sheer volume, you'll also get more people who are probably going to be D-bags. So it's a little hard to tell exactly. But yeah, I always say pug at your own risk. Assume you're not going to clear anything. And don't expect anything out. Usually it's a time killer, I say, if you want to do a pug. I just feel like doing this.
Yeah.
As opposed to I want something out of this.
I need to get a thing done.
Right.
Shanty is typing.
Ooh, maybe Shanty has power back.
Should be back in a couple of moments. Oh.
Excellent.
construction crew has blown the fuse.
Yeah, okay. So it wasn't a weather-based thing. It was a whoops.
It was a whoops from
Yeah.
Okay. Well, whilst we're waiting for him to get back, so we were talking about earlier about the importance of kind of buffs and debuffs, and obviously lots of different skills offer the same buffs and debuffs.
Sure.
So when you're putting together kind of a trial team, do you think it's important to communicate who's running which skills to make sure that you're getting the right spread? Is that an important thing?
Sort of. There's a lot of variety. You have a lot of options in ESO, as we've kind of said a few times. And depending upon what you're going for, depends on how much you kind of want to, or how much it matters if you optimize. If you're just going in on normal, even new people, like inexperienced people, the difficulty bar on normal is set so that you can really kind of do whatever you want. And as long as you've got a little bit of practice, like it's really experience, like type of thing. It's like, if you get a little experience on what you're doing, you'll be fine. Unoptimized, honestly, as you become more experienced and your skill level goes up, you can do some dumb crap on vet even in trials. Throughout the summer, I ran an achievement trial team, basically just to do random achievements that I wanted or other people wanted. And my requirement was that you just need to listen to what we say. That is the requirement. There was no other requirement. So people were just bringing whatever. And a lot of people were very new to trials. And I was like, doesn't matter. And they're like, oh, it's like, I've never done, for example, the most popular ones where I've never even done the Mauve Lorcage. And I was like, well, congratulations, you're going to get a vet Mauve Lorcage skin. And they're like, that's probably not. I was like, it's going to happen. You just need to follow suit. You're going to blow people up. Hey, it's Shanty. Sort of.
Just need to turn that video back on.
It's 50% Shanty.
50% Shanty. There we go.
It's 100% Shanty. Hello again.
Welcome.
Sorry about that. Construction crew blew our fuse.
It's really helpful. Yeah, we were just talking about the buffs and the debuffs and whether you need to optimize
for trial stuff. And I was mentioning that, like, you know, that the achievement team I ran, people were bringing in Oaken Soul rings, and some people were stamina heavy, and some people were magicka heavy, and we had the same classes. We had a bunch of Templars because it's an easy, like, starter DPS class type of thing. And people were just doing whatever. And I was like, that's fine. And not only did we get a ton of achievements cleared, we ended up doing stuff that was way above what a lot of people thought we were going to do, which was involving doing like vet halls of fabrication hard mode and stuff like that, completely unoptimized, and not with people who had like a ton of clears, so they were super experienced. I think it was 8 people's first hard mode clear in that place, and it was completely. I basically, as it got a little harder, I was like, all right, let me just make sure we got this and this active. It'll make our lives easier, type of thing. But we ended up clearing a lot with very little actually on our stuff. And basically, it's you optimize more based on the level of challenge, I would say. So if you're looking for hard mode, it's better to be optimized than if you're just doing vet. If you're doing vet, it's more important to be optimized than just doing normal. If you're going for a trifecta, you're in pretty much like you got people do wild stuff. Like people have accomplished some wild stuff when you're skilled enough. But I would say optimization matters in terms of how easy you would like the requirements to be of the thing you're doing, so you can overcome a lack of experience or skill with more optimization. If you're super skilled or freakishly experienced where you know everything 4 seconds before it happens, you don't need that level of optimization as much because you'll be able to get away with it because you're just so practiced and stuff like that. So it's really just like the degree of ease you would like added to trying to do something challenging. So that's kind of where optimization gets, you know, people like, well, a lot of times people want things cleared easily. Even if it's difficult, they want the least hassle to go through. And then you start looking for weird challenges once you've done it a bazillion times. So like I always say, optimization is great and it will make your life easier, but gauge it as to what the goal of the group is too. That matters quite a bit. Because you'll get through most stuff in this game with just whatever hodgepodge you want. It's the challenge stuff that gets a little more important.
Okay. On that note, are there resources that you recommend for those who are starting the journey into progression?
Yes. A couple of the people I had mentioned earlier. I think Skinny Cheeks is great. His build guides are super in depth. I really like how he explains stuff. He gives lots of options. Nephis and the ESOU is another fantastic resource where people want to help you get better. I've still yet to figure out where this whole like thing where people will like some of the people that are referred to as toxic elitists and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't get it. All they're trying to do is provide you information. Like, you could say you don't like how it's being presented, I guess, but like, the goal isn't to get you to not join. It's to get you to join. Like, that's the exact opposite. But it's just, there's you've got the problem of just personalities sometimes don't click, which is fine. Like, that's not a big deal. But I think ESOU is a great resource. Alcast with ESO Hub, that's another very well designed. I find that one's really good for overviews and stuff like that. Another person that I really like a lot of their stuff, very helpful. And generally, I think super nice dude is 8 Puppies. It's spelt in Leet speak, so it's got a 1 in there for the I and stuff like that. But he streams his trials. He also plays on Xbox and PC, so he also understands the console side of stuff, which I find very interesting. He's been recently producing YouTube videos on builds, which I think are incredibly helpful as well. Yeah, I can't recommend 8 Puppies enough, but there's so many good resources out there. Zynode has a lot of good starter stuff. I personally don't use this stuff beyond like kind of getting started, but he's giving you a good base. But he's also not trying to teach you trifecta strats. That's not really his thing, from my understanding. But he has a series all about mechanics, which is great for learning dungeons and stuff like that. I think he does trials now too, but like some of the stuff, it'll just give you a good base as to what you do, what you're looking for, and things like that. There's really a lot of great options out there. Delty is another one who's got a lot of stuff available. There's really a lot to work with. Those are just some of the people that I know specifically I use or talk to, or I know has helped a lot of other people.
Cool. And just to wrap up, what pitfalls can one expect if we are just starting out?
You are going to have clashes of personality on your teams. It's inevitable. Not everybody gets along, and nobody necessarily is wrong in a situation sometimes. You might just not mesh. Yeah. The biggest pitfall that I find as I'm trying to construct a brand new raid team, basically from scratch right now, to try to get back into that whole thing, make sure when you're finding a team, whether you're starting it or joining it, it helps to have all of your goals be similar. And not everybody has the same type of goals. If you just want to have fun and do whatever, don't join a trifecta prog. That is not the same thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to just get through a hard mode and other people want to do it perfectly, you're not on the same page. If you want to work toward that, that's different. But really, you want to just try to find like-minded people for what you're working with and go from there. That's like kind of like your base level. And then the big thing, which is a huge pitfall, finding 11 other people to do a trial is tricky. And then say you've got your 11 people, all 11 people are on the same page. Okay, perfect. Now you've got to deal with scheduling.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me.
There's so many holdups to getting that team to just connect. It is very frustrating. Some people have bigger pools. The more experience you have, the more you learn about it and stuff like that. But yeah, honestly, like we have more people interested in the trial group that I'm starting than we have spots in the trial. And we still don't have a roster yet, because we can't find 2 days for 2 hours a week that we have 12 people available for. So timing is a thing. It is a slow process. Honestly, roster prog can be harder than the actual prog oftentimes. But if when it works, it can be so much fun. So, it can definitely be worth it. But don't beat yourself up if it ends up being too frustrating and you're like, man, I'd like to do this, but I'm never getting past normal trials. That's fine. Like, it is what it is. And sometimes maybe start at a lower tier, get some experience so that when you have a chance to join some people with a more like-minded prog set of something you're close to, more difficult you want to do, well, you'll fit in quicker. You won't have as much of a learning curve. So sometimes you could always start in a different category if you're willing to have the patience to do so. That might help you as well. I started super chud level and just kind of bumped my way up. So
yeah, for sure. I do think one of the few things that WoW does do a little bit better than ESO is that at lower levels of raiding, we do a thing called flex. So you can have anywhere between 10 and 30 people.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So in Wrath of the Lich King, very, very back in the day, raid sizes were standardized to 10 man and 25 man. Back in original World of Warcraft, there were 15 man and there were 10 man and there were 40 man and there were like all sorts of things in the middle. But it got standardized to 10 and 25 and it ran 10 and 25 for a while. And then they were like, oh, this is not really working. So now at normal and heroic, you can have anywhere between 10 and 30 people in your
Interesting. Raid, 40 people in a raid. Jesus.
I mean, that's old school. So
I just can't even fathom. I'm just, I mean, without.
This is 2004 when the standard was the raid scene from, what was it?
EverQuest.
Yeah, where it was like hundreds of people and so 40 was actually knocking it down.
Just a quick tangent, but just like, was that like instanced or is it like?
I have a feeling that EverQuest worked differently, but I don't.
I can't speak to EverQuest having never played it. I've learned about that from podcasts I've listened to.
Okay, because that's one of the things that I've sort of been talking about when people are talking about like what do they want coming up, and I love the idea of harder content and stuff like that, but also like that's inaccessible to a lot of people. So I get like a lot of people don't care. But my big thing is like, I want harder non-instanced combat because then it's like, okay, you can be good enough for this or you can pig pile people into this area. And it's like, fine. Okay, this dragon has 500 million hit points. Well, we have 55 people coming at it. It's like, not so good now, dragon. It's like, whereas in Sunspire, it's 12. You have 12 people. There are no options. Like, it's 12 and that's your 12. So it's like, I like the idea of like, okay, yes, you can be very skilled and take out a world boss. Like, you can solo world bosses and stuff like that. Can most people solo world bosses? Not probably, no. But it becomes a skill or numbers or experience. So it's like, I like that being what I consider accessible is the options of other ways to do it. Where when it's instanced, you don't get that. You have to get good, as the stupid saying goes. It's like that becomes the answer. Where it's like, well, maybe less instance challenge and more open challenge where numbers can overwhelm something. And it's up to you whether you want to try to do it with less people to make it even harder or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we really only have one of our signature for fun questions today.
Uh-huh.
So, what do you miss most about being AD?
Giving free kills to the Ebonheart Pact. Because I did a couple streams with people who were on the Eldmere Dominion. There were some very incriminating photos for Gwen the Bard's birthday, where we were in Imperial City, just roaming around doing stuff, and I was really kind of actually like fighting a decent amount of people, and there was just this horde of EP in one of the sections, and I went over and I just started doing the wave emote, and they just trucked me, and I was like, yay. It's like whereas I did feel dirty because I had knocked out enough Daggerfall Covenant that I actually got a rewards of the worthy. And it was like, thank you, Dominion Soldier. I was like, delete this. I don't even want the rewards. It's like, no. And I just like hid under a bridge. So.
Oh, fantastic.
All right. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Sure. I appreciate you having me back. It's an honor to be your first repeat guest. So that was very nice. It's been fun chatting with you, and it was a pleasure having you both join us on Tales. So that's one of the podcasts that I co-host is Tales of Tamriel, which you can find us at pretty much Tales of Tamriel everywhere, unless it's the book series that's officially produced by Bethesda, which is some weird SEO stuff where you'll get a podcast and people will then think we are officially but nope, that's not how that works. I'm also a co-host on the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, which is a lore-based show about Elder Scrolls in general, not just ESO, over at robotsradio.net. Obviously, we're sponsored by the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages as well, so definitely check. For anybody who doesn't already use them for basically everything Elder Scrolls related, definitely check them out. And then if it's just my stuff personally you'd want to see for some reason, I'm pretty much Lotus of Doom everywhere that I have account. It's just cross-branding galore. So Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. Yeah, I make mostly Elder Scrolls stuff just because it tends to be my favorite series. But it's all-encompassing, not just ESO. It's just the series in general.
Okay, and thank you for tuning into the show. If you've enjoyed it, please let other people know and give it a review wherever you're listening to us. Rating and reviewing the show will help other people find it. You can also give us a review over at the Bonus Roll podcast directory. Go to bonusroll.gg/directory to find it. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can find us on Twitter at 10th Divine Pod, or you can email us at 10thDivinePodcast@gmail.com.
If you want to find us in other places, you can find me, Raven, over at Girls Gone WoW. If you're a World of Warcraft fan, or if tabletop RPGs are more your thing, check out As the Dice Roll, where I'm part of the crew of Cautious Optimism. You can also find me on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all those sorts of places as Silky Raven, or over at the Girls Gone WoW Discord at girlsgonewow.net/Discord. There's a channel for ESO chatter and lots of other gaming chat in general.
And you can find me, Shanty, on Twitter or Twitch, streaming mostly ESO, but sometimes WoW, because that dragon riding is so much fun in Zoom. And you can find and you can find me at Shantyman Gaming on both of those. You can also find me on the Girls Gone WoW Discord, joining in the ESO chatter and gaming chat, and a whole variety of other gaming channels. Feel free to say hello if you happen to see me online. We will be back in a fortnight with another lovely chat about ESO. Bye.
Bye.
See you later.